if I may, Kim. You know, I'm sitting here thinking about the importance of alliances. And this really isn't a worker-only problem. This is a problem across the board that, you know, the National Consumers League was formed in 1899, not to make, you know, not to rate products so the consumers could figure out where they could get the best deal. It was an organization that was focused on labor and how labor was exploited and how we needed to communicate that to consumers. And, you know, over the years, I mean, I take some responsibility for that. I haven't been around as long as Florence Kelly, who started the National Consumers League in 1899. But I think one of the I hope the takeaways from today is that this has to be much broader than a worker issue, and that we've got environmental groups as co-sponsors, we've got consumer groups as co-sponsors, we've got a lot of labor groups, we've got civil rights groups, but we're, you know, I would say from my perspective, we're doing a really lousy job of communicating to consumers at large the price that is being paid by the workers, the kids who pick the products, the people who mine our coal, the people who work on oil rigs, you know, the folks in Bangladesh who make the products that we buy. And so I guess I will ask members of the panel, what can we be doing to make that message loud and clear? And let's get a strategy together for how we can communicate this information, because most consumers do not. We've taken polls and surveys. They don't want to buy stuff from companies that are abusing workers and that are creating these hideous conditions. Problem is they don't know about it. So I guess, you know, I'm sitting here just doing a slow burn listening to all this and feeling responsible myself. I'm looking for ideas. And I hope that we can walk out of here with, you know, with some good ideas, and that we'll all be energized. But anybody on the panel or the audience want to comment about what we can be doing differently?
I'd just like to add, I think the college campus campaigns are a great role model. I don't know how you can do that. Maybe the soccer moms, or, you know, the bowling club. You know, all those shirts that we all buy. I mean, I try not to buy stuff made in China, but it's kind of hard sometimes economically. But it seems to me there's a much better way we can get the message out, based sort of on the college campus campaign.
Good point. Thank you for your question, Sally. Any other panelists?
I just want to introduce very briefly a program that ILRF has been partnering with and adopted over the past year, which is the Sweat-Free Communities campaign. And we are looking for soccer moms in a big way. It's all about building community support in cities and counties and states, and also universities we have that have joined, and high schools that have joined, to push for different procurement policies. Those procurement policies of uniforms, or however, I mean, the estimates we have are that the U.S. government is spending $10 billion a year purchasing apparel collectively. So we've now got 190 of those units participating, trying to build community support for structuring some kind of active consumer procurement policies that are ethically driven.
I would just add that one of the inspiring things about the Students Against Sweatshop program, one of the reasons it's been so successful, is that it combines some very smart strategizing with a lot of direct action. And what we suffer from is a lot of strategizing and a lot of talking and not nearly enough direct action. And this is true within the unions. It's true within a lot of groups. We've been bought off big time, thinking that strategizing and communication is somehow going to magically produce results. So I'd say we need to get busy. We have plenty of examples in the history to show that.
And I would just add, too, at American Rights at Work, one of the things that we do is looking for partnerships with good employers, that we can't lump all employers together, and looking at places where they have good working relationships with their employees through their labor unions to improve workplace standards, protections, and to talk through how to produce a product or a service, make it more efficient and effective in a way that doesn't harm their workers. And we produce a report every year called the Labor Day List, Partnerships at Work, that lift up different employers in different segments of our economy that do that. And I think that we should be also looking for models that can be lifted up and replicated so that these employers aren't economically disadvantaged for doing the right thing.
And we certainly couldn't do as much as we've been able to do and we expect to do in the future without our allies. So whether it's associations, women's groups, religious groups, there is power out there, and it's in a lot of different places. There's power of the consumers, but it is through joining together, through joint actions, that makes a difference, and we need more of that, not less. Thank you.
If I can just add, though, I think the issues you raised are very tough ones. I mean, the vast majority of workers in hazardous situations in the United States are not working at companies that are producing a consumer good. And so how do we, now some of them are in a supply chain, but not the traditional supply chains we think about. The home builders may employ relatively few people, but they'll have contractors and subcontractors and contractors below that, which is where we see the worst conditions. And so pushing safety down through, contractor situation through supply chains is much more difficult. And we have to find, again, those employers and those contractors who want to do the right thing and work with them. The chemical industry now is quite concerned about smaller companies that purchase their materials, then create other products, very few of which are actually sold to consumers. But in fact, they're concerned for lots of reasons, including liability, that the smaller companies that buy their raw materials, then turn them into something else. Those workers, as Chris said, because workers' compensation, they get sick, they can't sue their employer, but they can sue the supplier. So it's using those relationships and looking at them. It's very complex, but it's worth taking it on. And certainly, we'd love to see the consumer movement and others sort of step in that way and try to take a very active role. But to look at it in sort of holistically, because we really have to go beyond just the companies that we're buying from, because they tend not to be, the major employer.
Good point.
What I did want to add is that the Children in the Fields campaign over at AFAB, what we've been trying to do is empowering the communities as well that we are working with. We have been working at the grassroots level, organizing farm worker communities and working with farm worker kids themselves and teaching them to be leaders in their community, teaching them about getting civically engaged and using their powers, that they do have power, they do have voting power. Most of these kids that are working on the fields are American citizens and will grow up to be a voting population. And so we're teaching them on how to be able to make sure that they plan for their education, be able to get out of those fields and be able to go back and talk to their families, and teach other kids as well, peer-to-peer education and leadership, to make sure that this new generation of kids, this new generation of workers is empowered to know, for example, about pesticides they are working with early on, to know about what their rights are and when their rights are being violated and what they can be able to do about it. So I think it's important that, although all of our campaigns tend to be here in Washington, D.C., that we make sure that we're taking it back to the communities, empowering those communities so that they can help us and be the best advocates for themselves.
Great. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in thanking our panel.